Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. He started the show by saying, "It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. It's a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine?" Mr. Rogers is a model for us to consider what it means to be the kind of neighbor Jesus was talking about in the story of the Good Samaritan. We're called to connect with people around us, to notice them, to be kind and friendly toward them, and to meet their needs as far as we are able. Mr. Rogers was offering himself in his question, "Would you be my neighbor?" He wasn't asking for a handout, for someone to take pity on him and rescue him from loneliness, or to save him from injury at the hands of evildoers. He was reaching out to others with an invitation to be friends. Of course, we know we are called to reach out and help those who are in need. It's an obvious piece of being the body of Christ. We contribute to the local food pantry, we donate to charitable work in our town and in our country and across the world. That part of being a Good Samaritan is the easy piece. We've been doing that for as long as we've been Christians. The hard part, I think, is living in community with all those other people. It's not easy to look out at the people around us in our neighborhoods, or at work, or in the grocery store, or in the park, and see neighbors, see people that we're supposed to be connected to in a mutually nurturing manner. It's much easier to see strangers, or to not even look that closely and only see shadows and shapes of human figures. We insulate ourselves from others. Part of that is related to safety concerns. Strangers might present dangers to us, but part of it is simply that we do not make it our intent to be neighborly. That intentional neighborly attitude was woven through each episode of Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. Sometimes a guest came to his house and was greeted warmly. Many times, Mr. Rogers went to visit. He knocked on doors, he entered stores and shops. He made the effort to develop and maintain connections with people. He knew everybody and had a friendly relationship with all of them because he made the effort. With a kind tone in his voice and curiosity about the lives of others, one by one, he developed relationships. Mr. Rogers built bridges between himself and the people in his community. As the church, we can take a cue from that outgoing nature. Instead of sitting inside our beautiful building, enjoying the light coming through the stained glass windows, and soaking up the genuine love we share with one another, we could go outside with that same love and make a point of encountering our neighbors. It isn't enough to have a sign that says all are welcome. It's not enough to have an unlocked door and a greeter waiting inside. We need to be like Mr. Rogers and go to others sometimes. In 2 weeks, when we have our wonderful, fun event, Salem's Got Talent, we'll have a tailor-made opportunity to reach out and connect with others. I wonder what would happen if we made invitations and delivered them to the people who live on this block, and maybe to the people on the next block too. What if we became the neighborly church? Not the church that pesters people and bugs them and tries to drag them in, but the church that offers sincere invitations to join in our fun and in our celebrations. What if we learned the names of the people who live next door to us? What if we act like we care about them? They may never choose to worship with us, but they will develop an opinion of us. In fact, they already have an opinion about us. It may be that they think we are self-centered and closed off, or maybe that we are intruders in their neighborhood, taking up all the parking spaces every Sunday morning, or maybe they think we're disinterested in them. At best, they may have a very neutral attitude, not care about us at all. But unless we help them to know us, they can't have the opinion we would like them to have, that we are a warm, friendly congregation, doing our best to walk in the footsteps of Jesus. Even if they don't come to anything we invite them to, we will have at least let them know they are included in our no matter who you are. And we will have also let them know that there will be more cars on the street and more sounds coming from our building than they're accustomed to. Being the church doesn't have to be just about the number of people in the pews and the acts of ministry or mission that we do for others. It can be about being a good neighbor to those who live next door. Another important element in Jesus' story is the surprise that the pillars of the community avoided the injured man, but the Samaritan, the stranger, the traveler, was the one who helped. In Jewish culture of the first century, Samaritans were looked down upon. They practiced Judaism, but they did it wrong according to the Israelites. Jesus starts with a priest who crossed the road to avoid the injured man, and then a Levite, a lawyer politician type, who also crossed the road to avoid him. Fortunately for the victim, a third person happened along. This third person was out of place, though. He didn't dress like the people who lived in Jericho or Jerusalem. He wore his hair differently. He spoke with a funny accent. He listened to the wrong kind of music and had it just blaring on his iPod. But he had compassion. And so this unnatural duo was created. A man with serious injuries, penniless and naked, and an immigrant from an unwelcome nationality. When Jesus told stories, he had an obvious point, but he also had a more subtle message contained within the obvious. Of course we should do whatever good we're able to do, but we should do that good even when social protocol says it's not our responsibility to do it. The Samaritan had no duty to the Israelite in that society, but he saw it differently. He saw that he had a duty as one human to another. The priest and the Levite were able to sidestep that humanitarian duty because they would have become ceremoniously unclean if they touched the injured man with his bleeding wounds. Insulated by their positions in society, they put on their blinders and pretended not to notice the victim, continuing about their own lives. But while they kept their hands clean, they carried the cruelty of their indifference in their hearts. The Samaritan stepped up, took the risk of getting someone else's blood on his hands, and cared for the wounds of a stranger. He broke all the possible rules he could break, crossing all kinds of social boundaries in order to take care of this helpless person. Instead of hiding behind the wall of knowing he would not have been welcome in the home of this victim under normal circumstances, he chose the greater good over the appropriate protocol. In other words, Jesus calls us to step over the rules at times instead of insulating ourselves behind them. When we're confronted by a need or an act of injustice, will we be the priest and Levite, avoiding soiling our hands and our image? Or will we be the Samaritan and take action regardless of what others will think of us? Who is our neighbor? With whom are we willing to be neighbors? The Samaritan showed mercy to the man who fell into the hands of robbers. Jesus told the lawyer to go and do likewise. We're to live with our eyes open and our hearts even wider open than our eyes. Do all the good we're able to, regardless of the rules, regulations, and protocols that are shielding us from feeling obligated to do that good. We're called to love our neighbor. Jesus said, go and do likewise. Amen. And now we respond